Welcome to the fourth lecture of the Introduction to Blockchain Methodology and Module 3, Fundamentals of Blockchain and Distributed Ledger Technology. The learning material is designed to provide you with important future skills, ALS 2020, to gain the ability to effectively manage or develop blockchain services and processes. After introducing the learning objectives of this model, we will give you an overview of the field of technology assessment. Afterwards, we will explain the area of scenario planning in more detail and introduce various methods to identify, build, and analyze different scenarios. We will end this lecture with a short conclusion. This slide shows an overview of the knowledge, skills, responsibilities, and autonomies you will acquire in this lecture. In this module, we focus on the methods of technology assessment and more specific scenario planning. The shown methods can be used to understand the impact of blockchain applications and to communicate your vision with possible future blockchain scenarios. In this module, the learning objectives are the following. You should be aware of fundamental principles of the blockchain technology's suitability for business innovation. Be able to explain what capabilities of blockchain technology enable innovating existing businesses and processes, and be capable to critically analyze, ethically evaluate, and assess the use cases of blockchain application. Technology assessment. Technology assessment, TA for short, was first used in 1966. There are various translation proposals among which technology assessment prevailed. However, the name should not obscure the fact that TA is concerned with more than simply assessing the consequences of technology. It is not only interested in technical artifacts, but also includes both the assessment of the consequences of technology and the evaluation of these. Scientists in particular have begun to critically reflect on their inventions and to advocate that they should not be used. One example is the Göttingen Manifesto from 1957. German nuclear researchers, including Nobel Prize winners Heisenberg, Hahn, and Born, against the nuclear armament of the Bundeswehr. It makes a difference whether scientists consider the social impact of their work and incorporate this reflection into their work or not. In particular, contributions from scientists are extremely important for a factually appropriate public and political debate in democratic societies. The methods of technology assessment are partly imported from other scientific disciplines. Different actors are also integrated into the research process. The educational claim is immanent in the methods. 4 categories of methods are particularly noteworthy. System analytic methods, gaining an understanding of the system of the object of research. Prospective methods, guiding reflection and possible futures. Evaluation methods, basis for well-founded normative statements about the research objects of TA. Participation methods, participation of stakeholders or representatives of the public in TA projects. Systematic analysis includes a risk analysis, i.e. probability of damage times amount of damage. Systematic interrelationships such as life cycle analysis can also be carried out, i.e. which problems and questions arise at which point in the life cycle of the technology. Prospective methods focus primarily on forecasts, i.e. predictions. One well-known method is scenario planning. This will be explained in more detail on the next slides. Evaluation methods work with evaluation trees, among other things. Here, we try to calculate the impact of different ways. Participation methods include the participation of the public and other stakeholders in technology design processes. For example, focus groups can be held, or forums and conferences can be held that are open to the general public. The scenario technique is a method of strategic planning used in politics, science, and business. The aim is to analyze possible developments of the future and to present them in a coherent way. The understanding of the future underlying the scenario technique is characterized above all by the fact that it is not assumed that there is one necessary future, but rather several possible futures. The concept scenario stands for the idea of a possible future and thus implicitly always refers to the possibility of further alternative futures. There are 4 main reasons for using scenario planning. First, the exploratory function or knowledge function. Scenario planning is used to generate knowledge and analyze different future paths of technological development. The second reason is the communication function. We can use scenarios to communicate our visions for the future. They can also be useful to set a target for future development. The last reason is decision-making and strategizing function. When we know our goal for the future, we can use the scenarios to define milestones and derive the next steps and tasks. Scenario development comprises 5 different phases, which are explained below. Phase 1. Definition of the scenario field. Here, the following questions should be answered. For which topic should the scenario be developed? What is the issue and problem to be addressed? Where are the boundaries? What will not be considered? Phase 2. Identification of key factors. Key factors or descriptors are central variables that describe the scenario field. Key factors can be variables, parameters, trends, developments, or events. We can define key factors through empirical preliminary work, often through desk research and participatory workshops or interviews. Phase 3. Analysis of the key factors. After we identified the most important key factors, it is important to analyze them according to possible future expressions. To ask yourself, how can they develop in the future? For each key factor expression, a separate future funnel is opened. Phase 4. Scenario generation. Consistent factor bundles are compiled and selected. Scenarios are identified and condensed from the various scenarios funnels in the cross-section. Phase 5. Scenario transfer. Use and or processing of the scenario. There are various options how to use the scenario generated: impact analysis, stakeholder analysis, strategy development and evaluation, etc. The previously mentioned scenario funnel can be visualized like this. You have the point T0, which is supposed to represent the present. Then you identify the key factors A, B, and C. In this example, each of these factors has two expressions, i.e. A1 and A2. Depending on how they are expressed in the future at times Ts, different scenarios S1 and S2 can be combined. These are then described. For scenario planning, possible key factors or drivers must be identified that can have an impact on the course of the scenarios. As mentioned before, there are different methods to identify the key factors. One way of listing them is through a pestle analysis of political, economic, social, technological, environmental, and legal factors. Political factors. These factors are all about how and to what degree a government intervenes in the economy or a certain industry. Basically, all the influences that a government has on your business could be classified here. This can include government policy, political stability or instability, corruption, foreign trade policy, tax policy, labor law, environmental law, and trade restrictions. Furthermore, the government may have a profound impact on a nation's education system, infrastructure, and health regulations. These are all factors that need to be taken into account when assessing the attractiveness of a potential market. Economic factors. Economic factors are determinants of a certain economy's performance. Factors include economic growth, exchange rates, inflation rates, interest rates, disposable income of consumers, and unemployment rates. These factors may have a direct or indirect long-term impact on a company, since it affects the purchasing power of consumers and could possibly change demand and supply models in the economy. Consequently, it also affects the way companies price their products and services. Social factors. This dimension of the general environment represents the demographic characteristic, norms, customs, and values of the population within which the organization operates. This includes population trends such as the population growth rate, age distribution, income distribution, career attitudes, safety emphasis, health consciousness, lifestyle attitudes, and cultural barriers. These factors are especially important for marketers when targeting certain customers. In addition, it also says something about the local workforce and its willingness to work under certain conditions. Technological factors. These factors pertain to innovations in technology that may affect the operations of the industry and the market favorably or unfavorably. This refers to technology incentives, the level of innovation, automation, research and development, R&D activity, technological change, and the amount of technological awareness that a market possesses. These factors may influence decisions to enter or not to enter certain industries, to launch or not launch certain products, or to outsource production activities abroad. By knowing what is going on technology-wise, you may also be able to prevent your company from spending a lot of money on developing a technology that would become obsolete very soon due to disruptive technological changes elsewhere. Environmental factors. Environmental factors have come to the forefront only relatively recently. They have become important due to increasing its scarcity of raw materials, pollution targets, and carbon footprint targets set by governments. These factors include ecological and environmental aspects such as weather, climate, environmental offsets, and climate change, which may especially affect industries such as tourism, farming, agriculture, and insurance. Furthermore, growing awareness of the potential impacts of climate change is affecting how companies operate and the products they offer. This has led to many companies getting more and more involved in practices such as corporate social responsibility, CSR, and sustainability. Legal factors. Although these factors may have some overlap with political factors, they include more specific laws such as discrimination laws, antitrust laws, employment laws, consumer protection laws, copyright and patent laws, and health and safety laws. It is clearly that companies need to know what is and what is not legal in order to trade successfully and ethically. If an organization trades globally, this becomes especially tricky since each country has its own set of rules and regulations. In addition, you want to be aware of any potential changes in legislation and the impact it may have on your business in the future. It is recommended to have a legal advisor or attorney to help you with these kinds of things. This figure shows some example factors for the respective generic terms. Key factors for blockchain use cases also include reasons why blockchain has been used less so far. Here's an overview of blockchain-specific adoption challenges. Inefficient technological design. This is one of the major challenges of implementing blockchain. Although blockchain technology has a lot of perks, it still lacks many technological ways. A coding flaw or loophole is one of the significant points in this. Users can utilize these loopholes and hack into the system quickly. The criminal connection. The anonymous feature of the blockchain technology attracted not only experts but also criminal persons. Why? Well, the nature of the network is decentralized so that no one can know your identity. This makes Bitcoin the primary target used as currency in the black market and the dark web. This bad name is making many people think twice before looking into the whole system. Low scalability. Another one of the challenges of implementing blockchain is scalability. In reality, blockchains work fine for a small number of users. But what happens when a mass integration will take place? Ethereum and Bitcoin now have the highest number of users on the network, and needless to say, they are having a hard time dealing with the situation. When the user number increases on the network, the transactions take longer to process. As a result, the transaction costs get higher than usual, and this also restricts more users of the network. It can even take days to process the whole transaction. So in the end, the blockchain adoption challenge is making the technology less and less lucrative. Few of the blockchain technologies did show us a faster output, but they also slow down when more users log into the system. High energy consumption. Energy consumption is another blockchain adoption challenge. Most of the blockchain technology follows Bitcoin's infrastructure and uses proof of work as a consensus algorithm. To keep the system live, it will need computational power. At present, miners are using 0.2% of total electricity. If it keeps increasing, then miners will take more power than the world can provide. Thus, it now becomes one of the primary challenges of this network. Many organizations are trying to avoid blockchain altogether just for this challenge. That is why the situation needs to be under control, as it's one of the main challenges in adopting the technology. But how? Well, blockchain can utilize other consensus methods to validate the transaction. Consensus algorithms that require very little energy to process. Lack of privacy. Blockchain and privacy don't go really well with each other. The public ledger system fuels the system, so fully privacy is not first concern. But can any organization function without privacy? Well, no. Many companies that work with privacy need to have defined boundaries. Their consumers trust them with sensitive information. So if they're all stored on a public ledger, it won't actually be private anymore now, would it? That's why it's necessary to change the registers to limit access to the data. Making it available for only the customers will be the solution here. This is an essential requirement in the case of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. On the other hand, this raises some concerns for governments and companies. Governments and companies always need to protect and restrict access to the data for various reasons. This means that blockchain technology won't be able to work with sensitive information until anyone solves the problem. Private or federated blockchain can work here. You would get limited access, and all your sensitive information would stay private as it should. No regulation. This is one of the main challenges of implementing blockchain in an organization. Many organizations are making blockchain technology a means of transaction. You will see many products depending on this. But even now, there aren't any specific regulations about it. So no one follows any specific rules when it comes to the blockchain. Now, this is where the issue comes in. Although blockchain guarantees visibility as one of its benefits, there is still no security. You won't know for sure if it will be safe for you or not. To get over these challenges, governments in extremely controlled sectors may need to create regulations for blockchain. Security problems. Security is another crucial topic here. We all know how every blockchain technology boasts about its security. But like any other technology, blockchain also comes with a few security loops. The 51% attack on the network is one of the security flaws of the network. In this attack, hackers can take over the network and exploit it in their way. They can even alter the transaction process and restrict other people from creating a block. To deal with this, the protocol layer needs more security. We already saw some of its security loopholes by now. However, only a handful of scenarios have good protocols that can cope with this. so no one knows whether they are safe to use for a long time. Lack of adequate skill sets. In addition to software and hardware, we must also find qualified personnel to manage blockchain technology. As you know, blockchain technology is relatively new and still evolving. At this moment, few people have the skills to support such technology. On the other hand, the demand for this qualified staff is enormous. So if you want to hire skilled people, you will have to pay up large salaries. The right people will cost you. Like any technological innovation, the blockchain will continue to evolve. Blockchains can be slow. The blockchain is complex. That's why it takes more time to process any transactions. Also, the encryption of the system makes it even slower. Although they claim to be faster than traditional payment methods, still, in some cases, they can't deliver it. Completing a transaction can take up to several hours. So if you want to pay for a cup of coffee, it will cause you trouble. It is most suited for making large transactions where time isn't a vital element. It's an element of risk. And wasn't it supposed to remove the unsecured nature of blockchain from the equation? Theoretically, the principle extends to blockchain networks that use something other than store value, for example, logging transactions or interactions in the IoT environment. These channels, in fact, even computer files, can become slow and impractical. It's not always the case. It only slows down when the network is staked with too many users. The more it grows, the slower it gets. This blockchain adoption challenge can become a hurdle soon, so we should hope for a solution fast. However, some new technologies offer a faster speed compared to the traditional ones. The establishment has a direct interest in the failure of the blockchain. Public perception. Another one of the huge challenges to adopting blockchain technology is the lack of basic knowledge. In reality, the majority of the public is still not aware of the existence and potential use of this technology. If we want blockchain to be successful, it has to earn acceptance. Even though the technology is making history, it's still not enough to attract more consumers. Also, the lack of proper marketing for this niche is making it unpopular. So if you're not involved with this, you won't even know it exists. Currently, blockchain technology is almost the same meaning as Bitcoin. Most people think Bitcoin is the only blockchain network. Others don't even know about functions except for cryptocurrency. Meanwhile, the value of Bitcoin continues to rise to unprecedented levels. And also, cryptocurrency remains associated with dark transactions of money laundering, black trade, and other illegal activities. We can use different scenario techniques to answer different questions. The first question is, how much do the key factors influence each other? We try to answer this question with an impact analysis. The impact analysis is built in form of a matrix table. In the matrix, the list of identified factors is noted in the column and row in the same order. Per factor pair, we ask the question, to what extent is a direct relationship effective between these two factors? Then we rate each factor within a scale of 0 to 3 to quantify influence. 0 is no influence, 1 is weak relationship, 2 is medium relationship, and 3 is a strong relationship. All combinations are scored, leaving the center diagonal of the matrix blank. Then row and column sums are calculated. The row sum is the active sum, AS, and the column sum is the passive sum, PS. Active or impulsive factors have a high active sum and a low passive sum. This means that the factor has more influence on other factors than itself is influenced by. These are effective levers or switches. Reactive or passive factors have a high passive sum and a low active sum. This means that the factor is influenced by other factors more than it is influencing others by itself. These factors can help to observe a situation more accurately. Critical or dynamic factors have both a high active and a high passive sum. They have a strong influence but are themselves strongly influenced. These are reciprocal relationships between the factors. Finally, the buffering or inertial factors have both a low sum of assets and a low sum of liabilities. These factors are therefore rather isolated in their effectiveness. Through this evaluation of factors, those can be filtered out. They are considered in the further course of the scenario process and thus represented key factors in the narrow sense. The factors evaluated as active or critical. The basic assumption behind this is that inert and passive factors can either be assumed to be stable or as functions of the active factors. Do not need to be considered individually because they are only interconnected with the other via a critical factor. Key factors with a high active sum and those with a high active sum and a high passive sum are used for further scenario construction. When we derive a scenario, we need to know which factors make sense together and which are contradictory. Here, the question is asked, which characteristics are consistent with each other or contradict each other? A method that gives us information within scenario planning is consistency analysis. As before, we also set up a matrix for the consistency analysis. Each factor is given two different characteristics. All factor characteristics are compared with all other factor characteristics. For each combination, the consistency is assessed and rated on a scale of 5. 5 is strong consistency, strong mutual support. 4, weak consistency, mutual favoring. 3, neutral or independent of each other. 2, weak inconsistency, contradiction. And 1, strong inconsistency, total contradiction. The matching factors are then used to create different scenarios. This analysis is used to open up a space of possibilities about different conceivable manifestations of all key factors, and to answer which combinations behave consistently with each other and can thus be incorporated into the construction of consistent scenarios. This is crucial for credibility and interpretability of a scenario. For each factor, at least two possible values are usually assumed. For example, one factor could be the average temperature, and the values would then be an increase of 1 degree or an increase of 4 degrees. The probability of occurrence is not explicitly taken into account. The next question deals with how likely the occurrence of a certain expression is, and whether this favors the occurrence of another expression. With that probability, do expressions occur, and how do they interact? This question can be answered with the help of cross-impact analysis. The cross-impact analysis proceeds as follows. First, the possible manifestations of the key factors are determined. Second, an isolated probability of occurrence, initial probability, is estimated for each event. Third, a conditional probability is calculated. Guiding question: if event A occurs, what is the probability of occurrence of event B if influenced by it? The conditional probability is the probability of event B, for example decreased mobility, if event A, for example increased oil prices, occurs. Cross-impact analysis helps to illustrate and analyze correlations and probabilities of occurrence between different possible future events, and to take their mutual effects into account. It is used for plausibility analysis. Building on the consistency analysis, additional probabilities are included. The last method presented here is the morphological analysis that we know from previous lectures in business management. It answers the question, what would a scenario with several key factors look like? It is used to investigate complex network relationships in the area of non-quantifiable socio-technical problem complexes, for example, wicked problems. A characteristic is selected from each row of the matrix, and then the selected fields are connected with each other via a polyline. Using different polylines, different bundles can be selected, each of which forms the basis for the creation of a scenario. These methods give a good visual overview of how different scenarios are structured. Conclusion: technology assessment in general, and scenario planning in particular, are very interesting methods for technologies that have not yet reached the general public. For blockchain technology, they are therefore very appropriate, as they show what needs to change on different levels: societal, technological, regulative, etc., in order for certain future scenarios to occur.